difference, eh? Quite a difference. And that is the level that we are taking it to. That is what sets and how we are to know our bodies with that kind of synchronism, yes, that kind of beauty and grace. That's what we're here to talk about, the beauty of how God created us, male and female, and the beauty of male and female coming together in order to either plan a pregnancy or to postpone, working together as a joint responsibility for the two bodies that are coming together, not just one person. Everything is on you. Everything is on you. No. And you do this, and I have to do that. No, because our bodies were created beautifully. Yes, there's illness. Yes, there are problems because this is not a perfect world. All right? Unfortunately, we are not living in a perfect world. But what we do have, we will share with you because although we are not physicians treating illness and so forth, what we have is expertise in this method that helps women, girls, men, and even young men to understand the male and female bodies. And that information, that knowledge is something that is phenomenal and beautiful because it helps us to understand who we are. It's the basis of who we are. All right. So, first and foremost, this session is not the entirety of what we offer. What we offer is, in essence, if you would like to learn the method for yourself, for reproductive health, for general health as a woman, or as a couple for family planning, this is a method that should be taught ideally one-to-one. We are here today to introduce you to the method. It is not the finality, and it's not that you will learn the method in this session, because what we teach is just the basics. But when you come to us in a one-to-one session, in person or online, this is where you really learn yourself, for ladies, and as couples, how the method works for you. Guess what? We're all different. Yeah, we all of the human race, we all have similarities into what we are going to be talking about today, but we are all different. We are all unique and come with our own challenges and our own makeup. Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. All right, who are we? Boma TT is a ministry in the Archdiocesan Family Life Commission, yes, in the Catholic Church. What we do is very specific in teaching this method. However, the church has supported our work and we are very grateful for that. WOM International, World Organization Ovulation Method Billings, is based in Australia. This is where the method hails from, and the method is in over 100 countries worldwide because of the efforts of WOM International. Women and couples use this method throughout the world, and as much as you have not heard much about it, this method is highly effective and is used by many across the world. And we're going to share that in Trinidad, it's been here since the 1980s, right? Dr. Richard Clark of Port of Spain, he brought the method under the request of Archbishop Anthony Panton, and he went to Australia, learned from the Billings themselves, and came here. Then the Billings came to Trinidad in the early 1980s, and Joan can tell us a little bit more about that, but Joan and her husband were there when they were in Trinidad, all right? And so we have, let's say, pure links from the Billings themselves. So the Billings have traveled the world, all right? They're most now deceased, God rest their souls, but they have traveled the world, and not just that, but the World Health Organization and several scientific bodies have studied this method many, many, many times over the past 70 years. The method was developed in 1953, and over the past 70 years, It is the most researched method of family planning in the world today. Yeah? Now, it's the popularity that we don't have. However, it is a highly effective method. I keep repeating that because we need to, sort of emphasize that our work is not seen because unfortunately our physicians are educated in natural methods that are outdated, and what they know about billings often is inaccurate. All right, and we're slowly but surely trying to get the truth into the medical system. When I say that, in okay, in 2020, okay, yeah, in 2020, the Ministry of Health did name the billing coordination method as an option of family planning, and it's supposed to be available in all the health centers and hospitals and so forth. But the training of the physicians had not happened. Of course, 2020 was what? Everybody knows what 2020 is, pandemic time. So everything went out. And so we have still been trying to get our feet on the ground since COVID. So that being said, it's a slow and very slow process in getting our physicians and our nurses trained in using this method and being able to make it more accessible to our people here. In the healthcare system in China, this method has been used since the one-child policy, when China had a one-child policy back in the 1980s and so forth. And the method has been studied in China, India, Africa, and several major countries. It's in the US and all over the world, and I say that, over 100 countries. But in China in particular, while it was in the healthcare system for years, what they noticed is a reduction of abortions because it was working so well. People weren't using, let's say, devices and chemicals and so forth. They preferred the human approach. But they were, and then people were telling me, no, Chinese are very disciplined. And it's true. And the video that we saw with the dance, beautiful dance, the voiceover, the person in the voiceover said, it takes discipline to become that good in that dance. And the same way, the Chinese, they will work hard to learn the method, and it works. It works. It's currently in their healthcare system, and it works. Okay. We say this method is love because in Africa, when Dr. Billings went to Africa, an African lady, after hearing all of the different things that are required in using this method, right? What it takes for the man and woman for this to work, she went up to him and she said, this method is love. And it stuck with Dr. Billings, and he shared that in one of his memoirs. So we took it, that line, and he said, we'll repeat it. This method is love. What it takes for this method to work is love. Yes? So what is love? All human beings cannot fully find themselves except through a sincere gift of themselves. If you seek your life selfishly, you will lose it. If you are generous in giving it, you will find it. So this is our understanding of what love is. We are gifts to one another. We are to give of ourselves to our beloved and our beloved to us. Yes? And it's only when we give ourselves that we truly love. You ever notice that when people are mildly depressed, and this is a true study done and so forth, mildly depressed people, if they volunteer their time to another, the depression goes away. Why is that? Because love works. It's why we were created and how we were created as human persons. We were created for love. And so when we do what we were created for, we actually feel better physically, mentally. And so selfishness in our no part of this method. Yes? Especially when it comes to the couples using it. Selfishness is not in. So if you're generous in giving of yourself, you will find it. Find yourself. So the method is offering what should happen in sexual intercourse, ideally, right? As I said, we want to make good music. Sexual intercourse should be free, nobody forcing anybody, should be total, giving of oneself as a gift to that one and only. It should be faithful, not for 3 months, for 3 years, but all the time, all the time. And it should be fruitful. What does that mean? It should be open to life. Yes. Can you fix the battery for me? It should be open to life. So that's what we believe true love is all about. And this is what we, let's say, is our philosophy, our basis, and this is what couples who come to us, we hope to incorporate into their understanding of the Billings method. Fucking easy battery. Yeah. Okay. So again, we believe the human person is created to love and to be loved. Remember, we have a quiz at the end, so that's why I'm kind of going slow and making sure that you understand so you can get a little prize at the end if you answer. We do have a website called Is Love Forever. Do check it out at some point. Isloveforever.com. With the Billings ovulation method, we promote body positivity. In a world where a lot of negative has been ascribed, right? Sometimes we go on the extreme. Sometimes we pamper the body so much. And the body is this and that. And the height of everything is the body. But then we have the other extreme where people actually hate their bodies. Yeah? We are promoting body positivity, not pampering necessarily, but positivity and understanding that the body gives signs. And this is what we're going to talk about today. What are the signs that our bodies naturally give as to say, oh, so that's how it works. So the method essentially helps us to read the language of the body. That's what it does. Did you know that women's general health is linked to her reproductive cycles? Yes, her immunity, bone health, heart health, moods, her sex drive, her libido, all linked to her cycles. So this is why we're here today, because we're not just about, yes, it's about family planning, but we're here for women's general health as well. So let's watch a short video on the method, and this, after the video, we're going to go into detail. So this is just going to give you like just the broad outline, and then we're going to go into some more detail. After the video, we're going to go into detail. So this is just going to give you like just the broad outline, and then we're going to go into some more detail. After the video, we're going to go into detail. So this is just going to give you like just the broad outline, and then we're going to go into some more detail. After the video, we're going to go into detail. So this is just going to give you like just the broad outline, and then we're going to go into some more detail. After the video, we're going to go into detail. So this is just going to give you like just the broad outline, and then we're going to go into some more detail. After the video, we're going to go into detail. So this is just going to give you like just the broad outline, and then we're going to go into So, do you have any questions? So this is a natural method of fertility management that will teach women to recognize their body's natural signs of fertility and help you identify the fertile and infertile times in your cycle. How to use and um, achieve and postpone. Well, basically to conceive, again, we'll give you some of the guidelines, but again, please don't use this information, let's say, based on what we said today. The best way to learn is with the help of a teacher. We have booklets, we have books and so forth to share with you, but please don't base your knowledge of it based on what we're sharing today. What we're sharing today is for your understanding of how it works, basically, yeah? The method was established, as I mentioned, in 1953. These are Doctors John and Evelyn Billings. And it's now used by millions of women throughout the world. As we said, it's there to help with conception, achieving or postponing, and for monitoring reproductive health. Not just reproductive health, but a woman's general health is linked to her cycles, as I mentioned earlier. And here you see a couple who actually were taught the method and were having difficulty achieving, and they were happy to allow us to show their picture, right? And having their little girl there, right? A local couple. And we are talking a method that is, which of our methods is reliable, right? It is easy to learn and simple to use. It does not involve the use of drugs or devices, and therefore has no side effects. It's morally acceptable to all cultures and has been verified over the past 70 years by different scientists across the world. The efficacy, 99% or greater, can you imagine? Once used properly, once used perfectly, the method is highly effective, as effective as the hormonal contraceptives, and even better than that of barrier contraceptives. In achieving pregnancy, 73% in success on a whole, and then 53% for those who have been trying for at least a year, well, for a year or more, sorry, who have been unsuccessful for a year or more, they tried method and were able to achieve. By keeping a simple chart of your cycles, you keep track of your reproductive health. So we do involve the person who is using a method, they must track their cycle. But you're not using the app on your phone. That is typical to your app on your phone. We do have an app that goes on your phone, but it's not the one that will give you an average. It's not going to give you a calculation, because that's what the rhythm method did. And this is why Dr. Billings developed the method, because the rhythm method failed many people, many people. So the rhythm method is a calendar or counting method. And what it does is basically give you an average or calculation of when ovulation occurs. But what we know is that women don't always have regular ovulations. Okay? And so what we help and inculcate in the method quite brilliantly with my Dr. Billings is by paying attention to the signs in the body. You're not going to be doing any calculation. You're going to read the sign of your body and know what's going on. Okay? And this method, the beauty of it as well is that it can be used from menarche right up until menopause. For couples using it right up until menopause. And yes, that is the same person there, June. So from their young days until the menopause days. All right, they have used the method. And in fact, I'll invite June to share with us her testimonial. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Everybody hear me clearly? Okay, as my husband was not able to be here this morning, but he saw us there to our first baby. Well, we've been using this method for over 45 years. I'm sure some of you are younger than that. Okay, so we've been married, just last year we were married for 50 years. And we were, just before we got married, well, we had heard of the Billings method, but it was not yet in Trinidad. We had lived in Australia, and that is where it started. And when we were when we were getting married, I imagine just about a month or so before I got married, I fell sick. And at first we thought, we may have to postpone the wedding. And then the doctor said that, well, for the first year or so, we really were not, we had to, we couldn't afford to have children. It would jeopardize my health. And at that time, there was no natural method. There's no, this Billings thing was not there at all. And I was uncomfortable, so the only thing that was 99% was the pill. Now, the Catholic Church will tell you that if you can use it for a while, that's only thing, but you don't continue using it. You use it until things change. So John and I, we reluctantly agreed, but I was not confident. And sure enough, a few years later, we were living in Australia and we had heard about it, but it's only when we came back to Trinidad, um, Archbishop Panton and St. Dr. Clark, as Ms. Phelps said, to bring it to Trinidad. We didn't have an online thing and all this technology, we didn't have. So you had to go and learn it and come back. And then when we started, this Marianne Defoe was the one employed by the Archbishop to teach it, and we started. And the thing is, all of us were new in the thing. She was new, all of us were new. But we were Catholics and we trusted God and we said, okay, we'll walk in faith and we'll do what we had to do. Okay? And we used the method, and of course, new information came to hand. Actually, when Dr. and Mrs. Williams came here in 84, we met them. And they, at that time, soon after, the Billings method was taught in Trinidad and Tobago with Archbishop Panton, he had clouds. And in fact, Nurse Marion was able to teach it in all the health centers. They just accepted that. In fact, her salary wasn't paid by the government, and that was done. But after a while, when Archbishop Panton retired from that, it kind of died out. There was nobody to carry it. And so, but we continued using it and teaching it to others. People who had learned it taught it to others. And then eventually, a few years later, Mrs. Marian sister-in-law revived it and brought it back on stream. And Mrs. Phelps was to be a coordinator, as she told you in 2020, things back on stream, and it was, happening. But anyway, going back to that, when we learned the method, we soon after we became teachers and we have been teaching it. And for us, we used it, as you saw in the picture, breastfeeding, to become pregnant, to avoid pregnancy, breastfeeding, times of stress, everything. We used it in all the different situations. And of course, it's when people get older, they say, oh, I don't need to use that, I'm not taking children again. But it is for reproductive health. And even after you stop having children, your reproductive health is important because women, this is a time when women are very careful about, there are different cancers that come up and so on. If you're tracking and you know what your signs are, then if something is different, then you'll be able to check your doctor. And a lot of things, cancerous situations have been accepted, uterine cancer, different types of cancers, and it can be nipped in the bud because we have used the Billings method for so many years and we know what our signs are, what similar signs or secretions are. So that is really good. And in addition, as far as the marital relationship, Mrs. Phelps showed you that this method is love. It brings you in communication. You have to talk about your sexual life. And you talk freely about it, you talk about your mucus, you laugh about it, you joke about it. And it eases the relationship. You plan your family together. It helps you with planning your family. You feel really free. And for us, although just the method of family planning, spacing children, we found that the best plus was building our marital relationship. That was the most important thing we did first. Right? Well, in addition to all the others. Because in the church, marriage, free, total, faithful, fruitful, the marriage. So it helps us to keep our marriage vows, because whatever we pledge on the altar, we're supposed to pledge on the marital bed. Free, total, faithful, and fruitful to be open to life. And so I'm saying this to you. Okay, I've been married for 50 years. You say, oh, this thing worked for you long ago. But this thing wouldn't work. This is a different world. But what I can say to you is, it's not by power, it's not by might, but by my spirit, says the Lord. And I just want to say one last thing. When Dr. and Mrs. Billings came here, we were already using the method and we had a miscarriage. And of course, we were quite distraught. So I'm telling this to you. And Mrs. Billings, I spoke to her about my situation and how I felt. And she was so motherly. And she said to me, don't worry. And when she spoke to me, I felt like a healing went through. And would you believe she came here in September? In October, I got pregnant. So she went back, and that is the first baby. So I have two children. My husband and I have two children. We use Billings for all the areas. So it's not because you're using billings you have to have lots. You can have lots of children, but it doesn't mean once you use this method you will have a whole set of children. My husband has been wonderful in following the rules. I mean, we love each other. We want what is best for the family, and this is what we are extending to you today. God bless you.
Thank you. And that is to be celebrated, and we did celebrate last year. All right, so thank you, Joan. So we are going to get back on stream with the rest of this presentation. So, the doing combination method has been used by millions of people around the world. Sorry. All right. Have you ever heard of the doing combination method before today? No, no. Okay, well, yes, yes, no. See? Half no, half yes. There we go. Um, would you like to learn more about it? Can we hear that? Can you, other people hear that? Yes. Okay, thank you. So what are we going to do? What are we going to learn today? So female fertility begins at puberty, all right? When a young girl starts to develop breasts, when her hips start to widen, her waist starts to get smaller, all of those things, even the body odor business, yes? Puberty is in kicking in. Well, puberty is where it begins, and it comes in cycles. A woman is only potentially cycle for approximately 5 to 8 days. So she's not fertile, or she can't get pregnant all the time. So fertility, the ability to become pregnant, is not there all the time. Only 5 to 8 days within a cycle. And this finishes at menopause. Now, menopause is the end of the cycles happening. Yes? And the reason why we call menstruation and we use the word menopause has nothing to do with men. What does it have to do with? The word monthly. Monthly. It comes from the Greek word that means monthly. Okay? So it has nothing to do with men. But I know that women were like, it's because of men we have this. Right, there we go. We'll start talking about all kinds of things between men and women. But anyhow, male fertility, on the other hand, it begins at puberty as well, right? When the boys start developing muscles and the boys deacons and all of those things are happening, right? They produce sperm, and this continues throughout life. Together, they have the ability to have a child or couple fertility. And so we are, yes, focused on female fertility with this method, but we know that couple fertility needs to happen in order for pregnancy to occur. And so let's focus on the female reproductive organs at this time. What we know about the female reproductive organs, they have ovaries, one on each side, which contains eggs. A baby girl is born with all the eggs she'll ever have for the rest of her life. Okay? Ovulation, the Billings ovulation method, it was just called the ovulation method, but the World Health Organization said that we should call it Billings because other people were using it. Yeah. So the Billings ovulation method focuses just on that. Ovulation is the release of an egg. Okay, going slowly so you can retain all this. Okay, ovulation is release of an egg from one of the ovaries, and usually it takes turns. 1 month is this one, next cycle is the other one. So left and then right, and so it keeps going. Then there's the fallopian tubes. Fallopian tubes capture the egg, right? Literally capture, and if there are any sperm around, they can fertilize that egg, and that's where pregnancy happens. So the pregnancy actually occurs in here, the outer third of the fallopian tube. Okay? So when the egg and sperm meet, fertilization, there's a new life there. The DNA is After 24 hours, the DNA is not that of the father or the mother anymore. There's new life there. So from day one of pregnancy in the fallopian tube, right, there's a new life, male or female is already determined. Okay? So that little one is pushed along and continues to develop and grow on his or her own for a few days well before coming into mommy's womb, or the what we would call the uterus, or the womb is lined with a thick lining. At that point, the endometrium or the lining of the womb gets thick, very thick, ready to receive a baby. So it's full of blood, full of nutrients. So that little one has been developing on his own, her own for a few days, eventually gets into the lining, implants in there, and gets more nutrients for the rest of the 9 month journey in mommy's womb. All right. So the cervix now is where the method has been studied essentially. When it comes to the science behind the method, the cervix is where we're at. The cervix is the neck of the womb. And in the neck of the womb, it contains varying types of mucus. Under hormonal control, the ovarian hormones, estrogen and progesterone, dictate what happens at the cervix. When the hormones are at a particular level, the cervix will plug up, literally become a plug of mucus that prevents sperm from going past that cervix. So in other words, she cannot become pregnant during that time when that plug is present. At another time, the mucus will dissolve and over a few days show signs that she can now become pregnant because those signs are that of the mucus is showing that the sperm can enter, right? Not just enter, but actually be stored in the cervix for a few days even, 3 to 5 days. The sperm can remain in her body and remain in here and get nourished by her body, actually. So her body, with the different types of mucus, would keep the sperm or get rid of some sperm, and it does what it needs to do. Because when that egg is released, ovulation occurs. When ovulation happens, the sperm is ready to go, and literally her body sends the sperm to the egg. Yeah? So during the time of fertility, there is an open passage for the sperm to enter, remain, and then be sent off, or sent off right away. How does she know when all of this is happening? Well, all she needs to do is walk around and go to the bathroom and do what she normally does every single day. But she's paying attention. That's it. She doesn't need to touch mucus. She doesn't need to go insert fingers and look for mucus. Not at all. Once a woman is upright, remember she's lying down, where would the mucus be? Right there. But when she's upright, what takes its course? Gravity. Yeah, and it comes out. So the mucus comes down to the vulva. The vulva is the external part of the female genitalia that feels the mucus. The vulva feels the mucus, not the woman touching the mucus, not her fingertips. The vulva feels it. Why I say that is because the vulva is highly sensitive, way more sensitive than even fingertips, 5 times more sensitive than fingertips, in fact. So a woman doesn't need to touch a mucus. She doesn't need to do anything strange. She just needs to pay attention. But what she's paying attention to, it needs some time and effort to do. Why? Because it takes time to, well, what am I feeling here? Because we don't take the time to do that. We've never taught, we weren't taught this in school. All we know is that we get your period, okay, put on that. Do this. Blah, blah. That's it. We don't know anything about this time of fertility. So it takes time to learn the signs of your body. And so when you're walking around, do you feel anything? Pay attention. That's what the method requires, paying attention to the sensations, etc. So when it says etc., two observations here. What does she feel when she's walking around, when she goes to the bathroom and wipes? Is there a sensation there when she's washing herself? Is there a sensation there, right? What does she feel? And then the second observation, what does she see? Does she see something on the tissue when she wipes? She wipes from front to back. That's what hygiene requires. When a woman goes to the bathroom, she wipes from front to back. She doesn't just throw away the tissue. She has to look. What do you see? Do you see anything on your tissue other than urine that goes into the tissue, of course? Is there mucus there? Yeah? Describe it. Is it clear? Is it cloudy? Is it thick? Is it thin? Is it white? These are the kinds of colors and descriptions we are talking about. But if it comes to green and smelly and foul odor, that is infection we're talking about. But what we are describing, coming from the cervix, that is natural, does not involve any odor, color, like green or gray or anything like that. And it doesn't involve itchiness and the vulva either. That is infection. Go see the doctor. Go see your doctor. Okay? So the vulva feels the mucus. And when the woman wipes, when she washes herself, when she can look and see at the end of the day, on the underwear, sometimes there's mucus there. So she can describe that. If she saw nothing when she wiped, but at the end of the day, I saw something, she makes a note of it. So the method requires that you not just observe, but she charts what she observes. Now, the vaginal canal is the birth canal. This is where the baby passes. But the vagina is a wet area. And I mention it because some people figure, again, you tell them don't, but they do. And they go touching the mucus or they put a finger in there. And what happens is they feel wet. But that's not what we asked them. We said, pay attention to what's on the outside of your body. What's on the outside may be completely dry. She doesn't have any sensation at all. She's dry. If she's dry, that's her observation for the day. If she's dry for the whole day. But if she puts her finger in, she's going to feel wet because the vaginal area is wet. Okay, so that's why we say don't do anything strange, just pay attention to the outside of the body. The pockets of Shaw, Dr. Shaw, when he discovered them, did not know how they functioned. It was the researchers of the Bennings method who realized what they did. Under hormonal control, the ovarian hormones affect these pockets. So when a woman walks about and she goes about her daily activity, mucus comes down. But under hormonal control, literally there's a specific time in her cycle that these pockets are activated that dry the mucus. So she may be seeing mucus, but she can't feel anything at all. And that's because the pockets have been activated by hormones. So again, all the information that the woman needs when she's using this method is to pay attention to the outside of her body. She does not need to do anything strange. She just needs to walk around, use the bathroom, wash herself like normal, but pay attention. And at the end of the day, what is the most fertile observation of the day is charting. So she charts what she observes at the end of the day, and the most fertile observation is noted. So ladies, your reproductive system is very complex, but the signals it gives can be very simple. You may have noticed different types of discharge coming from the vagina at different times of your cycle. You may have even noticed different sensations already at the vulva during the different times of your cycle. This is because your cervix, the neck of the womb, produces different types of mucus secretions as your hormone levels change. Let's watch a little video. I will explain, sort of summarize what I've said and add some more. And so after that, we're going to go through the slide so you can understand it. But pay attention, we're going to ask a question right after.
system is wonderfully complex, yet the signals it gives you can be quite simple, helping you identify the fertile and infertile times in your cycle. You may have noticed different types of discharge throughout your menstrual cycle. The sensation that this discharge produces at the vaginal opening, called the vulva, also changes. This is because your cervix produces different types of mucus in response to changing hormone levels. Your cycle begins with menstrual bleeding, when the lining of your uterus, called the endometrium, is shed. Following menstruation, your cervix becomes blocked by a thick plug of mucus that prevents sperm from entering the uterus. This means that you are infertile. Many women feel dry at the vulva during this time. Other women notice a pattern of discharge that feels and looks the same day after day. The number of days that you experience this unchanging pattern will determine the length of your cycle. In an average cycle, this pattern of infertility lasts for a few days. If your cycle is short, you may not experience any days of this infertile pattern. In a longer cycle, you will have more. Early in your cycle, the pituitary gland in your brain begins to secrete a hormone called follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH. FSH stimulates the growth of a group of follicles in your ovaries. Each follicle contains an egg and a bundle of surrounding cells that secrete the hormone estrogen. Estrogen activates the cervix to produce the mucus essential for fertility. This is the start of the fertile phase. The fertile phase, shown here using a baby symbol, begins a few days before ovulation. One type of mucus produced by the cervix dissolves the plug, which means sperm can now enter the uterus. Another type of mucus filters out damaged sperm cells. Yet another type nourishes the sperm, so they can live for up to 5 days in your reproductive system. It forms channels which help the sperm travel through your reproductive system to meet and fertilize the egg. You become aware of your developing fertility by the changes in the mucus that you feel and see at the vulva. You will notice that you feel increasingly wet and then slippery, and you may see mucus that becomes thinner and clearer. The last day of the slippery feeling is called the peak of fertility. It is very close to the time of ovulation. As one follicle nears maturity, the pituitary gland is stimulated to release a surge of another hormone called luteinizing hormone, or LH. LH triggers ovulation, the release of the egg from its follicle. The egg is swept up into the fallopian tube, ready to begin its journey towards the uterus. If fertilization doesn't occur, the egg will die within a day of ovulation. But if the egg meets any sperm along the way, fertilization can take place. After ovulation, the empty follicle is transformed into the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum produces a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone prepares the endometrium in case there's a fertilized egg ready to implant. It also causes the mucus to thicken and the plug to begin forming in the cervix again. The day following the peak, you'll no longer feel wet or slippery at the vulva. By the end of 3 days after the peak, your fertility for this cycle is over. About 2 weeks after ovulation, a new cycle begins. We can now see how essential cervical mucus is for fertility. Once you're familiar with your patterns, you'll be able to identify your fertile and infertile times. This knowledge can help you to achieve or avoid pregnancy. It can also help you to safeguard your reproductive health, as you'll be able to recognize changes which might need medical investigation. This is knowledge that every woman ought to have.
Okay. All right. So this is one of the teaching tools that we use called the slide rule to show the different phases of a woman's reproductive cycle. The first phase, which will be charted on a new line if you are charting, would be the menstrual phase or the bleed as it's locally known. Usually it lasts somewhere between 3 to 5 days. Okay. It's followed by an infertile phase, which we term the basic infertile pattern. There are usually two possibilities in a regular length cycle. A woman can either feel nothing, see nothing, which would in the green here, or she might have a slight discharge, so she may not see anything, but she might be feeling something, or she might see and feel some slight discharge. But the most important thing is it the same day after day, so it doesn't change. It's a unchanging pattern of either no discharge or slight discharge. That's for this part of the cycle is of variable length. So a woman can go straight from her bleed into her fertility, or the infertile phase the second phase can go on and on and on for quite some time. You see that especially in women who come in off the contraceptive pill. And other, of course, life stages, like when you're heading into menopause. The next phase is the fertile phase, which is in white here. So during this phase, you see a developing, changing pattern of fertility ending in slipperiness. Slippery is the most positive sign of fertility. It's when basically the body is just about to release the egg. So the last day of slippery, which is marked with an X here, is what they call the peak day of fertility. And that's the day that the body most likely will release the egg. The day after the peak, you see a number 1 sign, and then you see a number 2 and a number 3 during this green phase. So even though it's in green, there's still channels through which the sperm can enter and go into the woman's womb. So she's still potentially fertile at that time. And what we know is that most days the egg is released on peak day, but sometimes the egg is released on day 1 or day 2 past the peak. And the egg lives for 12 to 24 hours. So the method is taken into account the fact that the egg could be released on 1 of 3 days, because it's not specific as to, it always has to be released on peak day. Right? So, but it usually is. Right? So we have, as I say, the fertile phase, which is a developing, changing pattern ending in slipperiness, which followed by the release of the egg, and then the egg lives for 12 to 24 hours. And after that, the egg is dead. So what we know is by the morning of the 4th day past the peak, the egg is dead, and plus there's a thick plug of mucus preventing any sperm from entering past the vagina into the womb. Right? So this is after 700,000 hormonal assays. And then the last phase is the luteal phase, which is usually 11 to 16 days, in which the woman is also infertile again. And we could call this the honeymoon phase, because you could actually plan your honeymoon around this if you know your cycle well enough before and not having the marriage in July. Yeah, which everything planned already. But anyhow, right? So 11 to 16 years of days of bliss and enjoyment. And not to say you can enjoy each other's company without certain amount of, which we'll go into the rules later. Yes. And yes, there are rules, and anything you learn, whether it is playing the guitar or playing the can, it takes time, right? And practice. And so just this method is similar. It takes time and practice. And I know we're in a microwave kind of world, but this is instant. So that's why this is a little challenging. And it's worth it. And we ask the male companion to be supportive because that helps a lot. Right? So.
It has been more and more. So thank you, Ryan. And now we have a little Joan who's going to take us through the rules of the
You'll be holding it. You want to do it? Okay, can you hear me? Yes, okay. Brian took you through this. Let me see if you were listening carefully to what he said. This represents a menstrual. You can hear me? Yeah. This represents a menstrual cycle. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, and the menstrual cycle from the first day of your period to the first day of your next. The first part, the first phase. Do you remember what he said it was? The first phase is menstruation. Then this phase is called basic infertile pattern. Okay, there's a green color and a yellow color, but when you learn the method, it will tell you why. Some people have a dry infertile pattern, some people have a discharge. So you will learn about this when you learn the method. Then we go into the fertile phase, which is a changing developing pattern, and it right, the changing developing pattern, and it leads to slippery. And then you identify your peak at some point. Remember, she showed you the pockets of shore. They give you a clue to when you can identify the peak. Then do you notice, okay, after this stage, you go into this green part, okay? And what did he tell you the green part was called? Luteal phase. And the honeymoon phase, because after that phase, well, you'll see about the roots, right? Okay, so let us look at the roots. Very simple. During menstruation, rule number one. Now, you know, why is Ronaldo such a good football player? Why is Usain Bolt such a good runner? What did they do? They practiced and they were highly disciplined to get that success. So anything you want to do, you have to practice and be highly disciplined. And we are extending the same thing that Bolt and Ronaldo and all of them did to you. So it's nothing strange. It's normal. Okay. So the rule one, the menstruation is the heavy flow. Menstruation starts when there's a, can you hear? Yeah. When there's a heavy flow. And during that time, the rule one, if you're using this method, all natural methods are based on abstinence. So if you use this method, you'll abstain or you'll wait. I prefer to say wait. And the reason is sometimes the fertile stage can begin during that stage. And if you have the blood, you will not be able to recognize that. So safety. All right. So rule one, wait. Then when we move into the BIP stage, okay, that's, remember she said the cervix is blocked with mucus. If the sperms enter in the vagina, they die within a few hours, less than half an hour. Okay, so no pregnancy can take place. So that's the BIP. So you're observing yourself all day, standing position, and you feel dry at the end of the day. So at night you have intercourse, right? That's rule two. All right. Now, next day, will you be feeling, well, in a standing position, will you be feeling dry next day? There will be seminal fluid flowing down. So you'll not be sure if it's seminal fluid or if it's your secretion. So you're going to observe for that day and wait. So you abstain that night. But if the next day you observe and then you are dry all day and you did not have intercourse, so that day, that evening, you can have intercourse. And then the next day you'll be wet. So the rule two is, they say alternate evening. The Australians say alternate evening, but here I prefer to say every other night. It's easier. Tonight, not tomorrow night. Tonight, not tomorrow night. Okay? And then from your BIP stage, you move into your fertile stage. So if you are dry, you start feeling a little moisture, a little wetness. So you say, that's the clue to fertility. So if you are avoiding a pregnancy, postponing a pregnancy, you will abstain. Okay? But if you, okay, that's what you'll do. And then you'll be observing the change in developing pattern leading to slippery. So you start falling, you'll observe that later on, the feeling of dryness, then the feeling of stickiness, slippery, wetness, and moving to slippery. Okay? And that's what you have to learn to identify. Now, I don't know if anybody thought of that when Pauline was explaining that you're more sensitive young and you can sense it. And you may have that question in your head, how will blind people use this? Well, I can tell you something. Blind people use this better than you and you can see. Because they have a sensitivity. Yeah, they have a sensitivity. And you know what? We people who see, now, feeling is more important than seeing. And we who can see always looking to see rather than feel. And we confuse ourselves. But the blind people have no problem. They don't see, so they feel. And they always spot on. And so they have no difficulty. In fact, one of the things we do in charting is we do something called blind charting. When we teach it to clients and they say, well, I don't know how I feel, we put them on, we say, pretend you are blind and do not look, never look and see. And I've taught clients, and in no time, they pick it up and they move. So don't be afraid that you'll not be able to sense. We have all sorts of strategies we can give you for you to be able to sense, to recognize these things. Okay? All right. So during this, so rule 1, avoid intercourse, and rule 2, every other night. And here, if you're avoiding pregnancy, you will abstain, right? Peak, and you count 1, 2, 3 days. Remember, ovulation can take place on the peak day, which is X, day 1 or day 2. And by day 3, now an egg is for 24 hours. So if it comes on that day, between this day and this day, it's there. Between this day and this day, it's there. And then the third day is an extra day just to make sure. So by the morning of the 4th day, everything is dead, and that's when the honeymoon starts. Okay, that is called a peak rule. So you can after day 3, from the morning until the end of your cycle, you have intercourse morning, noon, and night. Morning, noon, and night. You don't have to worry about that, right? That's a peak rule. Okay, so you see, it's important to chart properly, because if you chart properly, you know your rules, and then you'll be spot on, right? Okay, anybody has a question about that? Rule 1, about rule 2, every other night. Here you will abstain until you establish the peak, and the 1 to 3 days. Now notice that in this section, in this part, you have intercourse the evening because you're observing all day. But once you hit here, you have an intercourse from the morning as often as you wish. Okay? Anybody has a question? And rules 1, 2, and the peak rule. But we said there are 3 rules, so I have to give you the third one. Okay, can I move to the third? Okay, I have to turn this. Sometimes you move from the period to the BIP. And then you turn to this part, and it looks as though it's the fertile time you're coming to. Once you move to this part, you're feeling wet. It is fertility, and you think you're approaching peak. But suddenly, you forget this little red part. You go right back to this. And it has to do with your hormones. The hormones that are produced that is creating that. Okay, so what happens is, if you come back to the BIP stage, you have to count 3 days, one after the other. And then on the you observe all day, and on the evening of that day, of that 4th day, then you can apply rule 2. I will repeat it. Okay, so you're in the BIP, it came to this wet stage, the fertile stage, right? And then it just changed right back. Now, so you must count 1, 2, 3 days. So if on that day, on day 1, it changed like this, and the next day it went to the white, you have to start counting again. Every time you have to start counting again. But you must get 3 days in succession. And when you get the 3 days in succession, the fourth day, you observe all day. And if you're dry, the evening you can go back to rule 2. So that thing is called rule 3. Okay? If there's a change in the BIP, this is a change in the BIP. So if there's a change in the BIP and you have 3 consecutive days, then you can go back to rule 2. That is rule 3. Right. But sometimes you move from here and you don't go here, you have a bit of bleeding. The same thing takes. You'll do the same thing. A bit of bleeding and it comes back to the IP, you have to count 1, 2, 3 days in succession, one after the other. And then observe on the fourth day, all day, and on the evening, you can have intercourse. So that you go back to rule 2. So all that is part of rule 3. Okay? All right. We spoke earlier about peak, but this is rule 3. Okay? So any question on rule 3? What will cause? Well, it has to do with your hormones, the production of hormones. The ovaries are producing hormones. So this means that maybe the hormonal level increases and sometimes it drops. It has to do with your physiology, your body, how your body is working, and how your hormones are. But you don't have to worry because Billings' method teaches you to recognize your body signs. So you don't have to know. Well, we know why that is happening, but you don't have to know why. All you have to know is I'm observing the signs. This is what my body tells me. My body tells me that I have to wait. It's telling me that the hormones are doing something and I have to wait. And I just have to follow these rules.
Is that the age of the female in terms of the
it doesn't necessarily depend on age, but it happens in people who are in reproductive age.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with age. Different circumstances, but you're tracking yourself with the Billings method. Your body is saying, this is what is happening. You just interpret what is happening. And as Pauline was saying, there are apps. They give you apps and then you have to feed information and they interpret. But Billings apps is the Billings teacher who is behind the app interpreting for you on a daily basis. Oh,
did you teacher is normal or is that the teacher with the so some of these that is not done. Once you do it, speech is what yeah, you will live the normal for you. And if you see anything, I mean anything with this branch, so what you are normal, you can check it straight up. Because that's how we could how reliable it is. It actually
yes, so that's what point is. So once it comes back to BIP, short space of time, you're okay. But as you said, if it's going to take, if it's taking a long time to come back, because we are not medical doctors, we guide you and we lead you on to the doctors for things that is their business and not our business. So,
not all of us are doctors. Right? But the thing is, that once you recognize that it's not you, we check the chart, okay, that gives you a factor the videos that what goes off your chart. But it's not normal to needs medical attention. Okay. Okay. The other question. Good.
and Brian. Bye.
We are going to go back to the PowerPoint at this point here. Okay. So after all of that talk, let me ask a quick question. How many phases or parts does a menstrual cycle have? Remember. Oh, everybody remembered? Okay, there we go. Oh, which phase is the most important one for you and why? Anybody want to share? Huh? The, the third phase. Okay, tell us why.
I think that's when you're doing the most monitoring
Mm-hmm.
to see whether you're, well, depends what you want to do for pregnancy, if you're avoiding. That's the time where you're doing the most then to do it or not to do it in order to achieve whatever it is.
Right. Okay. So when it comes to achieving pregnancy, of course, the third phase, the fertile phase, is highly important. And when it comes to avoiding, yes, indeed, indeed. Any? Anybody?
The third phase as well.
Same thing? Same as well. Anybody else? Which phase would you say is the most important for you and why? Anybody? Huh?
It's not about the entire short period.
The
Because I
fertile
feel
phase?
we are in honeymoon stage right now.
Ah,
I should start now. All the thing now, whichever mind. But
okay.
it is ready, the attention.
Yeah.
With its stage, let you know if they want to get pregnant that time or they're not stage.
Yeah. So you have some decisions to make around that time.
Can I ask you a question? Which phase do you think you enjoy the most?
Good question, George.
So before was the honeymoon stage, but you want to have a baby now, so
Mhm.
it's the age for that period.
Ah, very good. So yeah, so in fact, we do talk about hormones in a big way using this method, and certainly the you know yourself, ladies. We're gonna talk about that too briefly about when your hormones are doing what, and certainly in the fertile phase, you're most attracted to the opposite sex, because that's what your body's naturally saying. It's time to have a baby, right? And so it would be most enjoyable around that time. Would you agree? Because your body is literally saying, it's reproduction time. Yeah? Around that. Around that. Mm-hmm. If you don't care about what you always dress really attractive rather than the other pieces is okay, but if it's that for sure. That's when the sexy lingerie come on, and that's when she feels like a woman. Yeah, that song, I feel like a woman. Yeah, indeed, around that time, because that's who we are as women. We are not men. Yeah. So definitely you feel more attracted to the opposite sex. And Trinidad would say, Honey, yes, vintage, don't worry. You Lord know me very well. Yeah. So, right. So the four phases of the menstrual cycle is explained to you. Once you become familiar with these changes in your body, you will be able to identify when you're fertile and when you're infertile. Infertility is associated with dryness or an unchanging discharge. There's an unchanging pattern. Okay? Fertility, on the other hand, is associated with a changing developing pattern, perhaps from dry to sticky to wet, leading to slippery. You are empowered. As a couple, you can decide if you wish to try for a baby or postpone, regardless of the length of your cycle. So we know there are many women being diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. It has a new name, polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. Why did they change the name? Because they realized it linked her hormone system, endocrine system. And indeed, we know that that will cause an irregular cycle. Yeah? So when we say regardless of the length of your cycle, when Joan explained that there are times when you have these interruptions in the pattern, like this, right? It may be as a result of polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, right? And so regardless, and this lengthens your cycle. Whenever you get these interruptions in your pattern, it lengthens the cycle. So regardless of the length of your cycle, you can use this method. But once a woman who has a reproductive illness like that, PMOS, or endometriosis or the like, when she has a reproductive illness, we are not saying that the method is going to cure anything. Not at all. It's just about observation. But she be keenly aware of when she's fertile and when she's not fertile. Okay? But oftentimes these illnesses need medical attention. And it was through our chart, Brian and I, our chart, that we recognized that I had an illness that needed attention. I had an illness, we knew that before, but we knew it needed more attention because he was doing my charting and he picked up on it and he said, you need to look at this. And we agreed that I need to see the doctor.
Just wondered if you have been PMOS, and the doctor just wants to put you on the contraceptive pill. That's like a plaster. And if the person is refusing to do any other blood test to figure out why you're having these irregularities, then you might need to change your doctor.
Well, there are times, I just want to say that there are times that we do need hormonal treatment. There are times. So for myself too, that I got the hormonal treatment, not that there was anything wrong with that, right? But it was temporary. It was needed at a particular time, be it a few months or a year or thereabouts. But these drugs that have hormones in them are powerful, powerful. And if a woman is on it for years and years and years, it actually does a lot of silent damage to her fertility and other parts of her body. So only if needed should she be on these kind of powerful drugs. But the truth of the matter is that we leave that, yes, to the doctor, but you need to know what is good for you as well. And doctors need to be open and honest about what, could, and if you are experiencing side effects, it's so important that you report it to your doctor. Okay? So again, when Brian says it's like a plaster, when you just, it's covering up the symptoms, it's going to treat the symptoms, you're not going to feel the symptoms anymore. But what is the root cause of those symptoms? Is it the thyroid? Is it, that you have insulin resistance and you're probably gearing up for diabetes? What is it? Is it that you have probably a tumor even slowly growing in your pituitary gland, in your brain? All of these things could be linked to the reproductive cycle. And so this is why we proudly and happily tell women, come and learn how to chart your cycle so you can know what's going on. If you're healthy, it shows up. It's a very sensitive marker, your menstrual cycle, of your health. In fact, in some studies and so forth, they talk about it being the fifth vital sign for women, a menstrual cycle. And ovulation is a sign of health. When she releases that egg, when she goes through that time of fertility, it's a sign of health. So when we teach young girls, what we do through their mothers in the mother and daughter program about their cycle, about what is healthy and what isn't healthy in their bodies, right? So that they can understand what's happening. I think I gave up. It was kind of stood down on me. Okay. So regardless of the length of the cycle, you can use this method. See, ovulation could occur, yes, in the middle of the cycle, but ovulation can also occur quite early. So when we use this little slide rule, you can see that ovulation can occur there somewhere near the middle, or as early as day 5 in a cycle, ovulation could be occurring. Yeah? Or long the way. Yeah? So the day of the cycle doesn't determine fertility. Yeah? It's not day 14, it's not necessarily day 14. It could happen. I'm not saying that. But what we're saying is that the fertile phase will occur early if you're having a short cycle, or it will it will be delayed in a long cycle. So once you're paying attention, you're going to know what kind of cycle you have, long, short, in between. You're infertile ladies for most of the cycle, and the fertile phase usually lasts for only 5 to 8 days. By keeping a simple chart of your cycle, you can keep track of your reproductive health. So again, the method requires both observations and charting, not just to observe, but to chart as well. Observations are made at the vulva, the external part of the female genitalia, as you go about your normal daily activities. You're not doing anything different or strange. No internal examination. The most fertile characteristic, so if you're dry in the morning, wet in the afternoon, and then dry again before bedtime, which one you're going to put? Wet, because that is the most fertile characteristic of the day. If you see white mucus when you wipe, and then later on you see clear mucus, well, you're going to put clear because clear is more fertile than the white. You know, so that's what we mean. The most fertile observation is being charted at the end of the day, after you've observed for the day. So we use colored stamps or symbols. Okay, so the symbols are below, but the colored stamps typically it stands out. So that's why we prefer to use the colored stamps. And we have an app where you put the stamps in, or you can use paper charts. We have options, lots of options. We have Excel spreadsheet, paper charts, the app, the Billings app. Okay, and all our teachers have up-to-date training. Your personal teacher will support you as you learn to chart and interpret your patterns. That's Joan and I in a conference in Costa Rica some years ago. Your privacy is important to us, and confidentiality is guaranteed. So we don't share anything about your personal information with anybody. Okay? Now we're going to watch a little testimonial from Carol and Sandra.
I'm Sandra Roberts, and we have been practicing Billings for the past 27 years.
Billings has really helped us as a couple, bringing us closer together, and it really helped our marriage for the last 27 years.
The thing about the Billings method, it truly helped the couple to bond. So it's definitely not a contraceptive method. It is a couple's method, and it helps you to understand your partner inside out, as I would say. We have 2 beautiful daughters, now adults, and even it also Billings help communication with the family as well. And it truly helps you to plan and space your family wisely.
As a man, being involved in Billings is really a plus in that learning the method. Fertile time, we were trying to postpone pregnancy, so the fertile time of the method is when you're abstaining, so it gives you that time to prepare for the infertile time. So it's like, I would say, like a monthly honeymoon, the couple experience using Billings.
Seeing that it's a natural method, you don't have to use any form of contraceptive. It's all natural, and it avoids you putting foreign objects into your body. So it's all natural, and that is how God has designed our body. And based on the mucus, what your body produces naturally, you certainly can tell when you're fertile and when you're infertile. And it helps you to monitor your reproductive health. And I think there is no other way, because these days you hear they talk about a lot of people are health conscious and all of that. So Billings is certainly a way of monitoring your reproductive health, all natural.
when you see a Billings couple, you know it's a Billings couple because the closeness the Billings create in the couples. You see a difference in a Billings couple as against a couple who is not practicing Billings. To be a more romantic person.
Yes.
So that's in your what should I say? Your love-making time is not just slam bam, thank you, ma'am. There's a lot of romance in order to really fulfill your partner.
We often tell couples when we preparing couples, it is a discipline and it helps you for during pregnancy. Yes, you can have intercourse right on up to the day you deliver, but suppose your wife is experiencing some ill health and she have to be hospitalized for that 9 months. How would you cope? And if there is a C-section delivery, and naturally if it is after child's birth, you normally will have a couple weeks, couple months. So how would you abstain then? So it is a true method to help you to discipline your life. So it really helps a couple all around.
So we would recommend couples using Billings as a form of planning their family and creating that bond among couples.
And we often say Billings is not a contraceptive method, but a way of life.
Representative of Jesus Christ before Almighty God, and in the name of the Father and of His Son Jesus, and by the power of the Holy Spirit of God. That's what I was thinking. I now pronounce you one together. Wait, I didn't say it yet, man. You are now husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. You're all right.
You know your cycle, you know yourself. Yeah. When I talk about, knowing, well, you feel real sexy and all kind of things during the fertile time, there's a particular time that men complain about. Anybody knows what it's called? Say it loud, loud. Moody, there's a particular time that it happens. And it's called PMS. Premenstrual syndrome is the proper name, meaning it happens 2 to 3 days before a new cycle begins. Premenstrual syndrome, my women are really irritable. You know what some men call it? I am the prime murder suspect at that time. Okay? Premenstrual syndrome does not mean you have to just totally shut down, ladies. Know yourself, know your body. premenstrual syndrome happens 2 to 3 days before your cycle begins. Fellas, that's when you give her the chocolates, that's when you give her the back massage, and you treat her real nice. Okay? That is what you do. So just giving you the little heads up. Okay? So you have an idea now. Okay? That's the most irritable time for women. Some women have it really, really bad. They have something called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So those 2 to 3 days before, or those few days before the menstrual phase, they literally cannot cope. They're long tears, they're severely depressed. If that is the case, there's actually medication for that because it's really bad. Okay, so just saying that PMS is, there's a range, right? There's a range, but know yourself. So is that the time when you want to go out with somebody who you're attracted to? Maybe not. You might be like, let's just do a little range check. All right. And then, of course, you make better decisions around this time, as you know that you're fertile. And if you're not looking to have a baby, do not engage in a dark corner with somebody you're attracted to. Okay. All right. So we talked about all the positive things that bullies can offer, but typically we are offered what? When we go for family planning in hospitals, health centers, doctor's offices, we're offered hormonal contraceptives. Yes? Of course, the Catholic Church, which we're in currently, teaches that contraception or contra to go against conception, to do something to stop fertility, in other words. Right? With this method, the means you're not doing anything. You're just observing, paying attention, and waiting. Unfortunately, people don't understand that contraception has damaged marital love in a big way. Since inception, since the 1960s, when it came in a large scale, it damaged marital love. When we say that, hormones, external hormones coming into a woman's body can actually affect her behavior, her thinking, her emotions. Okay? The stress hormone profile of somebody who's on hormonal contraceptives is similar to that somebody who experiencing chronic stress. So our body feels like it's under stress. Okay? Women's immune system, her learning, her memory is also impacted. Okay? The risk of suicide for 15 to 19-year-old girls, right? I call them girls at this point, is also more than twice that of pill takers. So this is no easy thing to take, even though it is easy to take. It is the most convenient thing to have, but it's doing some serious, serious damage to women around the world. And it's not that, every woman reacts it differently, the same way, sorry. Yeah, they all are different. Okay? Some women, it's just the weight gain. Some women, it's the irritability. Some women, it's the headaches, right? Pains in the body, all sorts of things. And they go through it because they say, well, it's normal. That's what everybody on. That's what everybody doing. But you need to. When we have been talking about this all morning, yes? But we've been talking about it for the past 70 years. Okay, let's watch this. This one is a little bit harrowing, but again, we're not here to blame anybody, and we're not here to say that all hormonal treatment is wrong. Because if you're sick and you need hormonal treatment, take it, right? But be wary of its effects.
The first contraceptive pill received FDA approval in 1960. It contained only synthetic estrogen, and it worked by making a woman's body think she's already pregnant. That is, a woman naturally produces higher levels of estrogen when she's pregnant, and this prevents ovulation, or the release of an egg. However, the high levels of synthetic estrogen in the pill from the 1960s and 70s caused dangerous side effects. After many women began to suffer blood clots, heart attacks, and strokes, the pill manufacturers lowered the levels of estrogen from an initial 150 micrograms per pill to today's dosage of 30 to 20 micrograms. While this reduced the rates of side effects, it increased the rates of unintended breakthrough ovulations. In response, pill manufacturers added synthetic progesterone to the synthetic estrogen. The progesterone has two effects. First, it thickens a woman's cervical mucus to impede the movement of sperm en route to the egg. Second, the progesterone dries up blood vessels along the uterine wall. So if a sperm still reaches the egg and fertilizes it, the embryo has nowhere to implant, but is lost in a woman's menses. For this reason, the contraceptive pill also works as an abortifacient. This is a fact that pill manufacturers don't advertise or promote. Therefore, the goal of this video is to inform people of the truth and to remind them of what actually happens at fertilization or conception. Here, the 23 chromosomes from the man's sperm and the 23 chromosomes from the woman's egg unravel and recombine together so that the two become one flesh. This unique combination of 46 chromosomes then becomes the blueprint for every subsequent cell of that new person. It can't be determined exactly how often the pill causes an embryonic abortion. However, women who take the pill report that they sometimes skip days, or that they don't take it at the exact same time every day. This results in a failure rate of 3 to 5%. If therefore 3 to 5% of the women who take the pill still report a pregnancy, how many more women are having breakthrough ovulations? And of these women, how many are conceiving new life but are losing their embryos to the abortifacient effects of the synthetic progesterone? These are good questions. And if you want to read the source materials for this video, or to learn more about natural family planning, the holistic alternative to contraception, visit myspace.com.
You have a program that you teach these things to young women. Yes, we have a program called It's Love Therapy, and we teach it to young women. So any group of young women that you know, or young men even, we teach them about what we know about this. It doesn't happen very often because people don't even know it exists. So if you know about it and you can tell others about it, you'll be very happy. Yes, and you can organize a group and we'll be right there. Yes? Okay. Any other questions, comments? Come on.
So, good morning, everyone. So, I have always heard about the birth control pill have side effects. And earlier this year, March the 2nd, to be exact, I had a co-worker and she was just 31 years, but she, for the longest a while, I think like probably since she was like 20 or 21, she was on this birth control because her gynecologist put her on it. And the reason of her death was that she got a blood clot that traveled to her lungs, and it is because of the pills. So it does have serious side effects.
Yes, and the statistic is 1 in 300,000 women. 1 in 300,000 women get deadly blood clots. Do you want to be one of the 1 in 300,000? Nobody wants to be one of the 300,000. Nobody. But it happens. And we're sorry for your loss.
I think it is up to the person who is providing the contraceptives to let the persons know the side effect. I think that's really important. I think that's your obligation. And sometimes persons or medical providers, healthcare providers, that is their job to provide contraceptives to persons, but it must be done in a responsible manner where persons know the side effects and keep on telling them every time that they come that these are the side effects to look out for and to go immediately for medical attention if it happens. Thank you. Good morning, all. I hear your comments and I understand what you're saying, but doctors are not trained in naturopathic medicine. They're trained in pharmaceutical medicine. So their job is to put, like Brian was saying, to give you a plaster, because that is why you are coming to them. So you go to the doctor, you have a headache, you want to not have a headache. You are in pain, you want to not be in pain. Your body is aching, you don't want your body to be aching anymore. So the doctor is not going to run a hormonal panel, the doctor is not going to figure out what's your diet like, the doctor is not going to tell you what's your nutrition like, the doctor is not going to check the deficiency. So I totally get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, just like how we take responsibility for ourselves in certain aspects, we also need to understand number one, we have to take responsibility for our health, because if you are not well, you cannot do anything in your life. You cannot support your family, you cannot support yourself, you cannot go to work. And I think now there is too much information online, just in general in space, because I am in my 40s and I am trying to think, how are these things I never heard about in my 20s and early 30s? Like, where did all this information come from all of a sudden? And not fake sources, reputable sources. So I get you, but at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for your body and for your health and the choices that you make, because there are alternatives and the doctors will never tell you some of them. Just add something. Okay, so we live in a world, in a society that is fast-paced, moving continuously, and it is getting faster every day. And what happens is that people do not slow down to really fine print. They do not slow down to take care of themselves, to take care of their bodies. And I agree with what you're saying. I do agree. The information was always there, but it has been publicized now because people are pushing the information. But sometimes we have to decipher the information and we have to decipher what it is that we need and what is that we want. Now, this method requires discipline. It does. It does require a lot of discipline. So, male partners in particular have to understand what is going on and try to support the method. And if that is not happening, then it will not be effective. So I understand and I agree, but but I think now we have to slow down. We have to slow down and understand what it is that we want and what we need. And some of us don't understand it too. We just want the parts of the so we just want to take a pill and be done with it. And every 3 months or every month we come back and we get something. And we have to have to stop looking at it that way. We have to stop looking at our bodies that way as just putting things into our bodies. What we eat, what we consume, the drugs that we take, we need to pay much more attention to reading the fine print.
Hi, good morning. Sorry. Hi, good morning, everyone. Just to share experience, I would say some doctors don't give you the knowledge, but from my experience in our public health sector, I do have PCOS. I used to have irregular cycles, and working with three doctors at Sandra General, all they were doing was tracking, not at in depth, that's how we all do it with the billing method, but they were just tracking my cycle and tracking my. And with that, I have on my regular cycle for the past 4 years, I could say. And they actually promote not being on contraceptive at all. Right? So I wouldn't say all doctors will, throw you to contraceptive. But there are those who are promoting not being on contraceptive because of the damage to do. Thank you. Right. So thank you for sharing so openly, and I appreciate you. Anybody else? Yeah.
reason why I asked about teaching young women about it, because it has a lot of promiscuity amongst the young people, and if they understand, it has the foundation of all of it. If they understand that this body is not theirs, right? It is the temple of God, yeah, and understanding that they need to love themselves. When they get knowledge of the damage that it is causing them, because these young people are so creative. They find ways how to get that contraceptive into their bodies because they want the pleasure of having sexual intercourse. Yes? So, that's how I feel all the time. Sure. Please. I have nieces and nephews. Yeah, I'm an educator, and I always, anything I am doing for me or any knowledge that I get, I always pass it down.
Beautiful.
I'm
Yeah.
and then the reason why I'm here as well, I have a sister, she's a nurse, but somehow she can't get pregnant. How I came across you, I was working, I was doing a PJ, cleaning a house, and the lady was having, I think it was TTT, and you came up, and you were just talking, and I stopped cleaning, and I said, a different way, no contraceptives. I just only had bits and pieces, and that's what bring me here. I'm from San Fernando, and I came up, I was like, okay, go, you have to go. Yeah, all right. So, thanks.
Yeah, you're most welcome. That's why we're here, and that's why we want to share this with everybody. So people came from south, east, west, and everywhere. Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right. So what can you do from now to manage your cycle and emotions better? Right? Because this is what happens to ladies when we reach past the reproductive years.
You wrapped a gift but forgot what it is, better unwrap it again. And now you're sweating, it's upsetting, temperature doesn't seem right. You had no clue this would happen to you, perimenopause comes tonight. You called the doctor's office, you ask him what you should do.
Tell me what to do.
He says it's all just normal, oh yeah, he's gaslighting you.
You're a man, what do you know?
You say your skin is blotchy, your mood is crotchety too. He says it's all just normal, oh yeah, he's gaslighting you.
Bring it down a little bit.
You better watch out, hormones aren't fun. You're gonna feel like stabbing someone.
Yeah, you.
Perimenopause
Now.
is coming to town.
Thanks.
Hey! She's making a list, she checks it a lot, and still she forgets 'cause her memory's shot. Perimenopause is coming to town. She's having trouble sleeping, she's constantly awake, and her doctor said eat more protein, she may punch him in the face. Oh, you better watch out, 'cause suddenly, every 12 minutes you may have to pee. Perimenopause is coming to town. No one told you perimenopause. Your hair'd start thinning to perimenopause. You're trying to fight all of Mother Nature's laws, bought this to stimulate your follicles. Menopause, how much did that cost?
Don't worry, there's some sale.
Oh, HRT, oh, HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Oh, HRT, oh, HRT, will make you much less stabby. You're also losing muscle tone. You like some damn progesterone. Oh, HRT would make you much less stabby.
Okay. So, HRT is another way of bringing hormones into the body at that time. And yes, it should be temporary as well to help the woman to get out of that rut. If it's insomnia, can't sleep, or whatever, perimenopause is not the end, of fertility. She can be fertile and have a maniac child. So this is why we need for the Billings method to help you to understand what is going on in a crazy time for menopause, okay? Because it is a crazy time, okay? Yours truly knows. So perimenopause is a time just before menopause. For one woman, it might be a breeze. I don't know, all of a sudden her cycle is for another woman, she gets and she can always live more. And the unfortunate case is my husband's life. 10 years. But the thing is, as I said, HRT is something that the doctors would recommend. But not everybody would want to be on it, for one, but there are other options, right? There are doctors who don't use exogenous hormones, they use other things. So, you need to be in the know. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. So I know our time is up indeed. So I'm just going to speed along. Couples can increase their understanding, respect for fertility. They make decisions together about their family size. They judge appropriate. They share the responsibility of family planning. This is the beauty and the benefits of the method. Couple communication improves, which can bring about improvement even in troubled relationships. We want to tell it to everybody. Many couples using natural family planning report being happier and more satisfied in their marriages and everyday lives, having more marital relations than those who contracept, and share deeper intimacy than those who use contraception, than when they use contraception. One couple put it to me, it's like chalk and cheese. What? What was I on that contraceptive all this time when I could be using the rings? Right? Yeah. So artificial methods may have permanent effects on a woman's fertility. For every year a woman is on hormones, basically exogenous hormones, her cervix, the neck of her womb, that we say is very important for this method, and neck of her womb, as well as fertility, is aging by 2 years. So when she's on these hormones, literally her fertility is getting older, double time. Okay, nobody told you this again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, as she gets older, she loses more density. All of these things are happening, especially with those hormones. I'm sorry, but a lot of people won't told us, and when you get this message, it's like, it hurts. It hurts. The delayed ovulation method does no harm, and a couple can attempt conception using this method. As we said, we believe that every woman ought to know this. Do you think more women and couples should know this method? Do you think so? I think I've heard that. Yes. A resounding yes. The requirements of the method: accurate observations, accurate charting, motivation, that's Joan and a girl and a boy there, Joan and Joe, and loving cooperation. That's what the method entails, right? And so you can achieve the family size appropriate to you with God's help, of course, because we could plan all we want. Who's in charge? Who is in charge? Right, we're in his house, by the way. All right. Okay. So remember, we offer free in-person and online consultation. The first appointment is completely free of charge. After that, we say if you would like to give us a registration fee of $150, we will gladly accept it. And we are non-profit and we're not here to make any profit, as you see. This booklet is $20 TT. You can purchase it today if you like, right? Our package, we have a registration beginner's package if you would like, which has charts, paper charts, stickers, booklets at $150 TT. It includes this one. So if you buy this one today, it's only $150, right? If you'd like, you don't have to get the beginner's package. We recommend that you do the first appointment free of charge and decide if you want to continue living with us or you want to just continue with the booklets. But the best way, and we always say this, the best way to learn is with the help of a teacher. Come and learn from a trained instructor. We will walk with you as long as you need to. You don't have to say, oh, every time you meet, you gotta pay? No. Okay? We will work with you as long as we need to. We usually meet every 2 weeks or so to check your chart, to see the patterns, and to help you. Okay. So book your free appointment today. Go to our website. There's a make an appointment on the website. And on our website is fertility.com. Just that we have apps and so forth, Excel spreadsheet, all of this on our website. I mentioned this already. Right. And if you don't get the booklet here and you want to get it elsewhere, feel free. There are booklets there. It's in for Spain, Living Water, and these other places in South, where the Daily Bread bookshop and San Fernando and Harris Promenade. East, Arima, the Santa Rosa bookshop, and Diego Martin, and the Palm